Killers of the Flower Moon is finally now out in theaters, and this latest film from Martin Scorsese did not disappoint. With so many incredible performances, a very good screen adaptation, and overall just an extremely well-crafted film, Killers of the Flower Moon has Oscar bait written all over it. This film does so many things well that it's definitely a lot to pack after just one viewing, but even after seeing it just once, I can confidently say that for me, this was one of the best films of the year. So this film is based on the book also titled Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's about the mass murder of the Osage Native Americans in Oklahoma in the 1920s. Now I went into this movie pretty much completely blind. I think I had maybe seen the trailer for this movie once, and I knew it had something to do with white people and Native American people, and there was probably going to be some tension there. But besides that pretty vague prior knowledge, I had no clue what to expect. And after walking out of that theater, it definitely wasn't what I was expecting, but it most certainly delivered. I think that Killers of the Flower Moon succeeds not just because of the story itself, which is a very important and perhaps very unknown part of American history, but the way that this story unfolds and the way that it's paced is just brilliant. Now there are some people taking issue with the 3.5-hour runtime, saying that it's too long and a film should never be that long, but the people saying this I honestly think just can't sit in a chair for an extended period of time. Because Killers of the Flower Moon uses that 3.5 hours to its full effect. Very similar to Martin Scorsese's film The Irishman in that respect. Now the first third of this movie really takes its time to settle in, and it's definitely a little slower, but in retrospect, this is obviously done intentionally. It really gives the audience time to get acquainted with the world that we're in and start to build some connections with our main characters before the ball gets rolling. And when the ball gets rolling, oh, it certainly gets rolling. The second act of this movie is just a death frenzy. This character dies, then this character dies, then this character dies. And at first we might think it's all just a coincidence, but as it starts to unfold, our preconceived notions that we might have had about Ernest and in particular William Hale really start to change. What was only just hinted at in the first act, we come to realize isn't just a mere thought, but there actually is a sinister plot going on behind the scenes here in an attempt to get rich. And it's really in the third act where it all starts to come to a head. So when the killings start to get really out of control and the FBI starts to get involved, Ernest and William, well, they're fucked. And when Ernest is given the chance to testify against his uncle, it was really interesting to see this character dilemma of his unfold on screen. This part of the film in particular is so well acted, which leads me into what I think is the best part about Killers of the Flower Moon, which most certainly has to be the acting. Now the big three that everybody's going to be talking about are Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone. And all three of them will most likely get nominated for Oscars. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a very interesting character, to say the least, by the name of Ernest Burkhart. And Ernest definitely isn't the smartest man ever, but he has a deep love for his wife while also having blind loyalty to his uncle, and ironically that blind loyalty causes him to be behind the murders of his wife's entire family. Which really leads me into talking about probably the most important character to the story, which is Robert De Niro as William Hale. The more I think about Robert De Niro's performance and the characterization of William Hale, the more I perhaps strangely like it. So we first meet William Hale through Ernest, and he's presented as sort of the big man on campus in town, but he's a very nice man, or so we think. William on the outside has very good friendships with all the Osage people, but underneath he has a very sinister plan for his nephew Ernest to marry into one of the Osage families, and then kill them all so that all the inheritance oil money will fall to their family. Jesus Christ, Robert. But I think what makes this whole plot of the story so interesting is that I don't think Ernest quite knows initially what he's getting himself into, because he doesn't marry Molly for some plot, he marries her out of love. Speaking of Molly, Lily Gladstone gives what I think is a very understated and effective performance. She certainly doesn't have the very extreme character type like Robert De Niro, but I think her character really helps set a tone for the film early on. She's able to play off Leonardo DiCaprio really well, and some of the best parts of the film for me happen when these two are interacting. I also quite enjoyed how this film ends. You know how in these types of movies they'll often do a slideshow where they'll show some pictures and then put some text on screen describing what happened after the fact? Well, Martin Scorsese decided to take a much more creative approach, and the best way that I could describe it is a sort of stage play and radio cast of sorts. You'd have to see it, I think, to fully understand what I'm trying to describe, because it's kind of hard to describe, but it was a nice cherry on top for me. So overall, Martin Scorsese has delivered what I think is another masterpiece of cinema. It was very interesting to see him tell a story like this, because it's very different to anything that he's done in the past. It was also very evident that he was very passionate about telling this story, and it's always an added bonus when you know the filmmakers are very passionate about their work. So if you haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet, it's definitely one that I would recommend. It's not only important to see from an American history perspective, but it's also just a very entertaining film. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you made it this far and you enjoy this type of content, do me a favor by leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. If you want to be notified about when I post my next video, hit that notification bell. But anyways, that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys next time.